With Encanto being the most recent movie to dominate my headspace after giving me the ability to feel again, I started to think more about why I just love the damn movie so much. Yeah, I explained a good chunk of my thoughts in its own video, but there's one bigger part that I felt I need to talk more about. It's a pattern I've noticed in some of my favorite movies, and especially the most emotionally impactful movies I watch. It's a specific quality the protagonists have: relatability. There's a lot of discourse in the screenwriting world about what is the most important thing for a character to be, interesting or relatable. And while I think an interesting character can go a long way, I feel that relatability actually matters more. And I'm going to use 3 of my favorite movies to explain why. The first movie, easily the second best Spider-Man movie behind Spider-Verse, is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Butterfingers. So glad I finally have a chance to talk about this movie. The basis of Spider-Man's creation was not to make a cool character. It was for Stan Lee to make a character that's so relatable that anybody could see themselves in him. It's one of the things that made Spider-Man the most popular superhero of all time. And Spider-Man 2 adapts this perfectly. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is consistently down on his luck, never really had a good time even when his powers are actually working, or even when it looks like there's a sliver of good in his life. Spider-Man is usually never happy, and maybe that's a good thing, for as weird as it is to say. For as much as I enjoy Tom Holland's Spider-Man, there's a sense of suffering that has been missing in his life, especially in Far From Home. Knowing him is the first time he actually feels relatable. But back to Raimi's Spider-Man. Raimi gets the character perfectly, always suffering, rarely happy, and when he is, it costs something. But no matter what, he always gets back up and does the right thing. That's the fundamental of Spider-Man. It's why he's so relatable. He has a life so bad it reminds us of the tough times we go through, but his drive to always push forward and fight for good is a quality which we can all aspire towards. Spider-Man isn't the world's most popular hero because he's cool. It's because we can see ourselves in him. The next movie I want to use an example of is actually my favorite movie, A Silent Voice, which I'll probably end up making a video on soon. Whenever I think about this movie, I think about the fact that this is the movie that actually changed me. It made me value emotion in film over everything else, and one of the reasons it could do that to me was because it was one of the most relatable anime protagonists I've ever seen. Shoya Ishida, a quiet loner teen with depression and anxiety. He causes his own problems, tries to fix them, pushes everyone around him away. Sound familiar? I know he did to me. Most films about depression and anxiety can feel really melodramatic, but A Silent Voice never does because it understands the issues and presents them to us in a character that feels like us. I'll go more in depth in its own videos, but to nail it in, A Silent Voice was one of the first movies in a damn long time that genuinely made me cry. Now, the final movie I want to examine is obviously Encanto. Yep, not even God can stop me from talking about this movie, but I promise, this should be the last time. Like I said many times, I have not been able to get this movie out of my head. I've seen it probably 12 times already, and I've been listening to Waiting on a Miracle on repeat in the process of writing this video. Yeah, I know, pretty sad, but I just can't not think about this movie, and I finally understand why. Like I said in my Encanto video, being half Colombian, this movie hit me really hard. I never would have expected myself to get as emotional seeing people from my culture on screen like that, but it mattered a lot to me, more than I ever could put into words. But the part of the movie that hit me as hard as it was Mirabelle's journey. Mirabelle, to me, is one of the most relatable Disney characters I've ever seen, probably the most relatable character they've ever written. Surrounded by her magical family being the only normal person, she doesn't have an insanely interesting personality. She's quirky and stuff, but she's a normal girl. She doubts herself, doubts her place in her family, and she doesn't see anything special in herself. And that, more than any other movies, reminds me of myself. I felt every single beat in her arc. I felt everything she has, all because I related more to her than any other character I've seen before. And I loved that. That's why, for me at least, those last 15 minutes of Encanto hit me harder than most other movies or shows ever had. Being able to feel everything a character feels, being able to actually see yourself, that's why I loved Encanto. And that's why relatability matters, because the best way, the only way to get a genuinely emotional reaction from an audience is to make them care. And the best way to make them care is to give them a chance to see something personal, something they can relate to, something that's like them. Being able to see yourself in a character can change how you see a film, and it can change your life. Movies have the power to change people, to make them care, to make them feel, and that's why being able to see yourself matters. No matter how interesting a character may be, if you can't at least see a little bit of yourself in their journey, then you won't be able to care. It's why diversity matters, it's why relatability matters, and above all else, why empathy matters.